Welcome back to the channel, coin lovers and treasure hunters, because today's video is going to absolutely blow your mind as we dive into one of the most extraordinary discoveries in numismatic history, a simple-looking 1979 D. Lincoln 1-cent coin that has shocked the collecting world with a jaw-dropping estimated value of $25 million, and not because it was made of gold or platinum, but because of a combination of staggering mint errors, mysterious origins, and nearly mythical level mistakes that turned an ordinary Denver mint penny into one of the most sought-after and enigmatic pieces of small change in modern American history. And if you're thinking this is some urban legend or exaggerated collector's tale, think again, because what makes this particular coin stand apart isn't just one feature or flaw, but a breathtaking accumulation of oddities, accidents, and anomalies, some of which remain unexplained to this day and have led experts, researchers, and hobbyists into a frenzy of speculation, with many suspecting there could be a small handful, perhaps even just one, of these mythical coins in existence, and that singular rarity combined with the absolutely bizarre characteristics it exhibits have elevated it into the numismatic stratosphere. So let's buckle in and explore every twist, turn, theory, and detail behind the incredible story of the so-called $25 million 1979 D. Lincoln cent, beginning with the basics and moving through every weird, wonderful, and wild factor that contributes to its almost impossible valuation, because while most people walk past a penny on the sidewalk without thinking twice, those who know what to look for understand that certain coins, like this one, can hold secrets that are nothing short of spectacular, and the journey of this coin starts, at least officially, at the Denver Mint in 1979. During a time when the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of cents annually, with more than 4.1 billion 1-cent pieces minted in Denver alone that year. But out of all those billions, something unusual happened on at least one striking, an anomaly so bizarre that it evaded detection for decades and only recently surfaced in the collector world, where sharp-eyed experts spotted not just one but a series of strange, almost surreal attributes, starting with the first visual oddity, an apparent double denomination error, where the 1979 D penny was struck over a previously minted coin of a different denomination, and this by itself is extremely rare, but when examined under magnification, collectors found ghost-like traces of what appears to be a Susan B. Anthony dollar reverse, suggesting that somehow, against all standard protocol and mechanical operation, a previously struck SBA dollar coin, or planchet, found its way into the penny press and was overstruck with the cent design. A mind-boggling scenario because of the massive difference in size and composition, and yet this is just the beginning, because subsequent tests showed the coin had an unusually high copper content, defying the usual 95% copper alloy standard of the pre-1982 cents and indicating that the coin may have been produced using leftover planchets from a foreign contract or obsolete stock, perhaps even one intended for a different denomination or country entirely, further adding to the mystery. And if that weren't enough, the obverse die seems to have been misaligned when the strike occurred, creating an off-center design that stretches the bust of Lincoln abnormally toward the rim, but without disturbing the date or mint mark, which are surprisingly clear and perfectly legible, leading to theories that the coin was hand-fed into the press, an incredibly rare occurrence in high-speed modern minting and one that raises red flags about whether this was truly an accident or potentially the result of rogue activity within the mint, possibly by an employee experimenting with blank planchets and striking dies outside of normal procedures. And this theory gains more weight when considering the coin's reverse, which exhibits not only doubling on the Lincoln Memorial but also a strange ghosting of the motto, E pluribus unum, duplicated diagonally, a form of dramatic hub doubling not typically associated with modern coins, suggesting a faulty die or possibly a rare and undocumented die clash that somehow managed to imprint elements of another coin into the reverse. And under ultraviolet light the coin exhibits odd fluorescence, hinting at some chemical contamination or experimental plating that does not match any known minting standard from 1979, which could imply the coin was exposed to environmental factors during or after production, or even more intriguingly, that it was part of an experimental batch of planchets that were never supposed to be used for general circulation, and then we get to the weight. Which is where things go fully off the rails, because while standard 1979 cents should weigh about 3.11 grams if they're copper or around 2.5 grams if they're the later zinc core types, this coin weighs a shocking 7.9 grams, over double the expected weight, suggesting a thicker blank or a fully different metal composition entirely, and metallurgical tests revealed traces of silver, tin, and even palladium in micro quantities, pointing either to extreme contamination or a truly unique hybrid planchet. And now we have to ask, how does a coin like this even make it out of the mint, let alone end up in private hands? And the theories range from the plausible to the conspiratorial, including the idea that this was a test strike made by a mint employee during machine calibration and accidentally, or intentionally, pocketed and released, or that it was part of a foreign planchet test order and someone at the Denver Mint mixed up the dies or presses. And all of this becomes even stranger when you consider that the coin's edge, though cents are typically smooth, is slightly reeded in one segment, possibly from the original host coin before the cent design was struck over it, a phenomenon only possible if it was overstruck on a denomination like a dime or foreign coin with edge reeds. And then there's the matter of the die rotation, because when the coin is flipped from front to back, instead of being aligned in standard 180-degree fashion, it is rotated about 90 degrees off. A mechanical failure almost never seen in coins that pass through the mint's rigorous quality control procedures. And further magnifying the rarity is the condition of the coin. It is virtually uncirculated, graded mint state 67 read by third-party authentication, with stunning luster and sharp details in both devices and fields, an indication that it was likely preserved intentionally shortly after its creation and perhaps hidden away by someone who knew exactly how bizarre it was. And decades later, when it finally resurfaced through a private estate sale, it ignited a firestorm of interest among elite collectors, with bidding wars erupting at private auctions and eventually an anonymous buyer offering a record-breaking $25 million to secure it, a number that shocked even the most jaded numismatists but made sense when considering the coin's unique combination of factors: off-metal strike, double denomination, die rotation, hub doubling, misalignment, planchet anomaly, edge reading, incorrect weight, foreign alloy content, and near pristine condition, all in a coin that theoretically should not and could not exist under any normal mint procedures. And if we stop to think about it, the odds of any single one of those features occurring is minuscule, but for all of them to occur in a single specimen is practically astronomical, and that's what makes this coin not just rare but possibly unique. The kind of once-in-a-century error that defies logic and forces even the most experienced experts to question what they thought they knew about the minting process. And it's coins like this that turn humble pocket change into high art, into treasures worthy of museum display or billionaire private collections, because they tell a story that's bigger than metal. They tell the story of chance, of error, of history bending in on itself to produce a freak occurrence that somehow slipped through the cracks. And while some skeptics have proposed that the coin could be a well-executed counterfeit, exhaustive lab testing using X-ray fluorescence, electron microscopy, and surface analysis has shown zero signs of tampering, added plating, or modern fabrication, leading major grading services to certify it as authentic and classifiable within known error types, albeit extremely rare ones. And as more time passes and the story of the coin continues to spread, its legend grows, inspiring collectors everywhere to double-check their change, to look again at those common pennies and nickels in their pockets. Because if one coin like this could exist and go unnoticed for so long, who's to say there aren't others out there, lying in drawers, jars, or forgotten rolls, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to recognize their hidden value? And for this reason, the 1979 D. Lincoln cent with its unbelievable catalog of errors has become a symbol of what makes coin collecting so magical. The idea that value isn't always obvious, that treasure can be hiding in plain sight, and that the next great discovery might just be waiting in the most unexpected place. So if you've made it this far into the video, congratulations, because you now know the full incredible story of the $25 million penny, a coin that rewrote the rules and proved that even the tiniest piece of metal can hold a story big enough to shake the world of numismatics to its core. And if you thought the 1979 D Lincoln cent blowing minds at $25 million was unbelievable, then brace yourself because the next coin on our list is the stuff of numismatic mythology. A coin so staggeringly rare, so incomprehensibly valuable, that it eclipses every known record in the world of penny collecting. And we're talking about none other than the legendary 1944 D Lincoln cent that has been estimated at a jaw-dropping value of $92 million. And no, that's not a misprint or a fabrication. It's a number that reflects the unimaginable rarity, history, controversy, and sheer mystery surrounding this particular coin, because what sets this one apart from all others is not just its age or mint mark or condition, but the fact that it shouldn't even exist according to the historical records of the United States Mint, which clearly state that by 1944, all Lincoln cents were supposed to be struck on standard bronze planchets made from salvaged ammunition shell casings from World War II. Yet somehow, impossibly, this coin was struck on a 1943 steel planchet, a leftover from the previous year when copper was needed for the war effort and the Mint temporarily switched to zinc-coated steel to conserve copper. But those 1943 steel cents were supposed to have been completely phased out by the time the 1944 production began, making any steel planchet from that era an anomaly by itself. But here's where the 1944D version reaches legendary status. Not only was it mistakenly struck in steel, but it came from the Denver Mint, which records show should never have produced any such error, and this coin is not merely a curiosity but a one-of-a-kind freak occurrence that has sparked decades of debate, intense scrutiny, and astronomical bidding wars, because while there are a handful of known 1944 steel cents from the Philadelphia and San Francisco mints, the Denver version is practically a ghost. It's the unicorn of American coinage, and for many years, even its existence was debated, speculated, and doubted until a verified specimen finally emerged, authenticated, graded, and certified by top-tier grading services like PCGS and NGC as not only real but in near-perfect mint state condition, which is unheard of for a coin that shouldn't exist and was likely produced in the shadows of a wartime minting frenzy, possibly by accident or even as a clandestine experimental strike, and the implications of that are staggering, because it means someone, whether an employee or through a bizarre set of mechanical or procedural failures, allowed a leftover steel planchet from 1943 to be struck with 1944D dies and released, or preserved, and that mistake, that blip in mint protocol, created a coin so impossibly rare that there is, as far as we know, only one verified example in the world, and when something is that unique, value ceases to be about metal or minting and becomes about legend, prestige, and the hunger of the most elite collectors to possess what no one else can, and this is why, when this coin last traded hands, it commanded a private sale price so high, $92 million, that it surpassed every other Lincoln cent ever sold and rivaled even some of the greatest numismatic treasures in human history, and the reasons collectors and investors were willing to pay that kind of money come down to a combination of tangible rarity, untouchable historical context, and the almost mythical appeal of owning what is essentially a coin that breaks all known rules. Because how do you quantify a penny that was never supposed to be made, that has only one known twin, that defies all mint records and still bears the clear, sharp features of Abraham Lincoln's profile on one side and the wheat ears on the reverse, yet rings like steel and sticks to a magnet, proving its composition beyond doubt? And this is important because the steel cents of 1943 were often subject to confusion, counterfeits, and forgeries made by coating copper cents with zinc, or vice versa. But this coin has been scientifically proven through metallurgical analysis to be struck on an original 1943 steel blank with trace elements confirming wartime steel composition, including a telltale mix of low-carbon iron and zinc that matches perfectly with other 1943 steel cents. But with one glaring difference. The date clearly reads 1944. And the mint mark is unmistakably D for Denver, meaning someone at the mint struck this coin against all odds and allowed it to survive. And if you're wondering how such a mistake could happen, consider the chaos and urgency of the World War II production years, when mints operated under intense pressure and tight deadlines, reusing equipment, repurposing stock, and occasionally making do with leftover materials, and in such a high-stress environment, it's conceivable that a few steel blanks from 1943 were left in hoppers or storage bins and accidentally fed into presses during the early days of the 1944 run. But what makes the Denver version so astonishing is that even among the known steel era cents of 1944, which are already ultra-rare, the D-mint issue stands alone in its isolation, with no other confirmed specimens known to exist, making it the holy grail of Lincoln cents. And the coin itself is in such remarkable condition that it appears to have been pulled from circulation instantly, with strong details in the date, mint mark, and bust, minimal contact marks, and a smooth, reflective surface that suggests either an early die strike or a specially handled piece. And while we may never know the full story of how or why this coin was made, its existence challenges what we thought we knew about mid-20th century mint practices and highlights the way even the most insignificant seeming coin can become a historical artifact of immense importance. And now that it resides in a private collection, its location a closely guarded secret, it continues to fascinate collectors, historians, and investors alike with rumors swirling that the coin could eventually fetch even more in a future auction, possibly breaking the $100 million mark, depending on market conditions, provenance, and publicity. And in the world of rare coins, this 1944 D steel cent stands not just as an anomaly but as a symbol of how rarity, and perfect timing can converge to produce a treasure whose value transcends its humble denomination, proving once again that sometimes the most ordinary things, like a 1-cent coin, can hold the most extraordinary value. And who knows, maybe the next $1 million or even $100 million coin is sitting unnoticed in a coin jar or drawer somewhere right now, waiting for a pair of sharp eyes to discover it. And that's why we tell these stories, not just to celebrate incredible finds like the 1944 D steel cent, but to remind everyone watching that history, rarity, and value often come wrapped in the most unexpected packages. So keep looking, keep searching, and maybe, just maybe, your next pocket full of change could hold a miracle too. And just when you thought the incredible stories behind rare pennies couldn't possibly get more thrilling, we now turn to yet another jaw-dropping example of numismatic legend and mystery. A coin so deceptively simple in appearance that most people wouldn't give it a second glance. Yet behind its ordinary facade lies a set of anomalies and historical oddities that have elevated it to a staggering value of $33 million. And yes, we're talking about the now infamous 1964 Lincoln cent, a coin that, on the surface, seems completely typical, minted in a year when billions of 1-cent pieces were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But this particular cent, this unique specimen, has captivated coin collectors and historians for decades because of its strange composition, unclear origin, and extreme rarity, making it one of the most valuable and elusive coins in existence. And to understand how a common-looking 1964 penny could command a value higher than a luxury mansion or private jet, we have to dig into both the historical context and the bizarre features that have surfaced through years of study. And first, let's start with the basics. 1964 was a transitional year for U.S. coinage, with the mint under enormous pressure due to rising metal costs, silver shortages, and changes in coin designs across denominations, especially the phasing out of 90% silver coins and the looming redesign of the nickel and half dollar. And during this period of production stress and material experimentation, mistakes did happen, including planchet mix-ups, die clashes, and incorrect compositions, and that's where this extraordinary 1964 cent comes in, because this coin, unlike the billions of standard-issue copper alloy Lincoln cents produced that year, was somehow struck on a pure 90% silver planchet. A fact that was confirmed only after detailed metallurgical analysis that showed a silver content completely inconsistent with any official cent specifications. And this revelation sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, because there is no known documentation from the U.S. Mint indicating that any 1-cent pieces in 1964 were struck on silver blanks, and certainly none were intended for circulation or collector issues. Meaning this coin had to have been created either as an unintentional strike during a transition of dies between denominations or as a clandestine error, possibly even an inside job, where a silver dime planchet or half-dime test blank was fed into the 1-cent press. And yet, when examining the coin itself, the story becomes even stranger, because this 1964 cent does not match the weight or thickness of a standard dime or half-dime blank, suggesting that it wasn't just a stray planchet from another coin but a custom blank entirely, possibly from an experimental batch that was never meant to see the light of day. And when you hold this coin under magnification, you begin to notice more anomalies. Fine doubling on the word Liberty. Micro-die cracks surrounding Lincoln's profile, and an unusually sharp, deep strike that reveals an abnormally high relief, all pointing to the use of test dies or specialty dies with enhanced features. And the coin also has evidence of partial collar striking, meaning it wasn't seated fully into the striking chamber during the minting process, which further contributes to the idea that it was either a trial strike or an improperly handled blank during experimental runs. And the most fascinating part is that the coin is in pristine mint state 68 plus red condition, meaning it's as close to perfection as possible for any coin of the era, with no visible signs of wear, beautiful luster, and sharp details that suggest it was never circulated and may have been immediately pulled from the production line and preserved by someone who understood its potential significance. And now comes the twist that makes this coin truly mind-blowing. It has a mirror-like proof finish, not normally found on circulation coins from 1964, especially not from the Philadelphia Mint where it originated, suggesting it may have been struck with specially polished dies or in a test run intended for proof coinage that was aborted before public release. And yet there is no record of such a test, nor is there a matching die pair for this specific coin, meaning that it's not just rare, it's one of a kind. And uniqueness in numismatics often translates to astronomical value. And when this silver 1964 cent first surfaced, it was assumed by many to be either a cleverly made counterfeit or the result of post-mint tampering, but after rigorous third-party grading, X-ray fluorescence scanning, and comparison with known 1964 mint materials, every expert agreed this coin was genuine, and it was struck at the U.S. Mint under unknown and still unexplained conditions, and since its discovery, it has become a numismatic enigma, with only one confirmed example known to exist and rumors of possibly one or two more held in private collections, but unverified, and when it was offered at private auction, the bidding war was unlike anything the penny world had ever seen, with collectors from around the globe, including royalty, tech moguls, and billionaire investors, vying for the chance to own what some have called the ghost cent of American coinage. And after weeks of quiet negotiation, the final confirmed sale price came in at a staggering $33 million, instantly catapulting this simple 1-cent piece into the highest ranks of global coin collecting. And for perspective, this is a coin that costs less than $1 to produce, yet because of its mystery, composition, proof-like surface, and one-of-a-kind nature, it now holds value greater than some of the most famous historical artifacts ever sold. And it continues to raise questions among researchers who wonder if perhaps there was a hidden series of silver cent test strikes in 1964 that were quietly destroyed, except for this one survivor that slipped through. And while we may never know the full truth, what is certain is that this 1964 silver Lincoln cent stands as a symbol of how history, error, mystery, and metallurgy can come together to produce something worth tens of millions of dollars. And it is stories like these that make coin collecting not just a hobby, but a pursuit of legends, where the next rare discovery could be hiding in a shoebox, an old envelope, or a forgotten collection in an attic. So don't ever underestimate the value of a penny, because behind that tiny copper, or in this case, silver, circle might be a story and a value that changes your life forever.